but I want you to know I am sorry for the way everything happened.
Thank you. We can't go back and undo it, and just being here right now, kind of hearing that, and some of the conversations we've had off camera over the years now, I know why you left. Ultimately, it was to save yourself, and I didn't realize the extent of the abuse that you were going through, and I didn't remember a lot of the abuse until later in life, and you started to talk to me about it. But I can remember, from like 8 to from like 8 years old until like 25, all I kind of remember was feeling like, fuck you, Mom. Welcome to Bear It All, the Kintsugi Chronicles, here on the I Am Not Okay channel, where we gather our broken pieces in search of gold. I am John Bear, this is MJ Bear, and Holly Bear, and today we're talking about a huge topic. A lot of families seem to end up dealing with this: divorce. Holly and I are the product of a broken home. Our mom and dad got divorced when I was 8 years old. I believe Holly was 3.
1.
When it happened, but I guess it got finalized.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there was like a 2-year, I always go with the 2-year separation. Because I think I was like 6 when it happened and you were like 1. And then when it got finalized, I was like 8 and you were like 3. Something like that. Anyway, this is something that for us was a defining moment in our family history. And for me in particular was probably I look back at it as the pivotal moment in my life. I was so young and impressionable, and to be quite honest, I felt like the divorce was my fault, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I shut down. I didn't know how to talk. Apparently, I was like a little mute, and all I remember was getting sent to, and I shouldn't say getting sent. My parents and the people around me seemed to be so concerned that I was sent to a therapist at 8 years old in 1989. So if you can imagine, we're just in this world and day and age where we're starting to talk about mental health. Well, this is a long time ago. And so to be a little kid and being told that you have depression, that was big. It was scary, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Holly, what do you remember? I know it's not much formidable, but it's more the aftermath. But tell me, do you remember anything about kind of that time or period, or just kind of gloss over?
I really don't. I was too young. I don't remember much other than going to Mom's house on the weekends and living with Dad. But other than that, it didn't really dawn on me, I don't think, until later in life when I was older.
Okay.
So it was just normal for me because it just...
You didn't remember anything.
I didn't know any different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Like I just knew that we would go see Mom on the weekends. Like I don't remember when Mom would come over in the morning and get us ready for school and all. I don't remember any of that. So to me, it was normal until I got older and kind of knew what was going on, that Mom and Dad weren't together anymore. I'm trying to think about the first time I realized that. And I don't think I do.
I've never asked you that, so that's...
Yeah.
I'm very curious as to like...
Yeah, I know you were the older one. You definitely saw more, heard more, knew more.
Most likely.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't remember. I just remember when Mom would drop us off on Sunday nights, I would cry. Because I didn't want to leave her. And then I would have to go in, and Dad would always just be like, "How's your mother?" And I'm like, to me, I'm like, she's fine. Like, why are you even asking? You know what I mean? Like it didn't.
Were you like 4 or 5? Do you kind of remember at that time, or like just not
No,
even being
I was
remember how
probably
old?
older,
Okay,
like 7,
okay,
8.
okay. So by that time, a little further
Yeah,
in. Yeah.
because I remember mom would, I was mom's only girl, so she would paint my nails.
Mhm.
She gave me cute little shoes. So I thought that was, I'm allowed to wear them.
Of course.
I wasn't.
And that's when you started to know that
That's when I
something was
started to
different.
realize something was different. Like this
Okay.
isn't normal. This isn't.
Something's off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird. So it was probably about that time.
Because my first sort of formidable memory of that time was I didn't know a lot about it basically until it was happening. So the first memory I really have was mom. She took me. It was, I believe it was at Dee Dee's house, but she told me she took me there, and I knew Dee Dee. And then she said, John, I'm not going to be coming home tonight, and I want to let you know that I love you, and that you'll be coming to stay with me soon. I might be paraphrasing, but I believe it was something along those lines.
Right.
And I just remember like, wait, what? Like, it just, huh? Like, I didn't understand. I could not compute. And so like kind of from that moment, like I believe I just started to shut down. Like I said, I felt like it was my fault, but in like an 8-year-old mind, like, well, why else would my parents get divorced? If I'm a good kid, they would stay together.
Right.
But I'm a bad kid, so it must be that. And that was kind of where my head went. And I remember, being really silent around that period, being really quiet, shut down. And it took a while for me to start to find my way, but that was really challenging. And I don't know, Mom, fill in here. Like, what do you take us through your perspective on telling that story and Holly's perspective of what she just said?
Talking about deciding to get a divorce and how
Yeah.
that happened or how it went down.
Yeah. Tell us about like what led up to the divorce. Not maybe all the super details, but you guys decided to get divorced, and tell us what you feel like we need to hear.
The lead up to the divorce was a long time coming.
Okay.
I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know, that our marriage just wasn't right from the start. We should have never gotten together. So it should have happened long before it did. When I got married, I was always taught these things were forever. So when I got married, getting a divorce wasn't an option at that time when I first got married. And the only thing I felt I could do was keep trying and keep trying to do the right thing.
What did you keep trying to do?
Make my husband happy. And for more than 5 minutes. I don't know how much you want to know. It was an extremely acrimonious relationship. And you know what? Before I go any further, I'm sorry, John, for the way everything happened then. I can't undo what happened.
I know.
But I hope that I earn your respect. I want to make things right with my kids. That's why we're here. But I want you to know I am sorry for the way everything happened.
Thank you. We can't go back and undo it, and just being here right now, kind of hearing that, and some of the conversations we've had off camera over the years now, I know that I know why you left. Ultimately, it was to save yourself, and I didn't realize the extent of the abuse that you were going through, and I didn't remember a lot of the abuse until later in life, and you started to talk to me about it. But I can remember, from like 8 to like really to from like 8 years old until like 25, all I kind of remember was feeling was like, fuck you, mom. Like I didn't understand why you left me with him to be abused. And and then and then after we lost Tony and I had my punch in the gut knocked to the ground moment, and all the rose-colored glasses got knocked away, and I started to be able to piece things back together a little bit and maybe see things more clearly, and I actually like listened to what you were saying. You didn't leave us with him. You had no choice. You had to leave to save yourself. And in the end, you doing that, as we talked about earlier, was one of the things somehow internally, subconsciously gave us enough strength to get through the harder times. And we did have a rougher start to things.
Yes.
And looking back on it, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I would say for us that in some ways, we've learned to use that toughness to serve us. And I think now we're starting to use that toughness in order to learn how to actually like be soft and have these conversations and kind of like come back together a little bit. And so with that, knowing all these things, well, I know it's tough to talk about this, and I know that it's hard
Sure it is.
for you to say that. But it needed to be said.
I want to say these things. I want to come together. I've said this before. I always thought I knew how my kids felt during these things. But I never asked you how you felt. And I think a lot of the reason we lock horns the way we do sometimes is because I believe you're coming from my perspective. I think you know where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, right.
But you don't.
No.
And that's because I've never asked. That's why we're here. I want to know how you felt and what it meant to your lives, because we've never talked about it from your perspective to me. You've heard me talk about my divorce and some of the things that have gone on. But I need to hear how it affected you.
Well, in the big picture sense, I probably was the tip of the spear. I took a lot of the brunt of it, and I don't know if it was I don't think it was conscious, but then it was also like, I think on some level I thought, well, I don't want Holly and Tony to feel as much of this, so it was me, it wasn't them. I'll figure out how to be better, and
I do know,
and that's so it messed with my mind for a long time, and I
never asked you.
Yeah.
Why the hell would I think I knew?
Because you two are very similar.
No, I mean, all you guys. I thought I knew how all of you felt.
Well, I think that this is more you and John because, like I said before in previous videos, you grew up with him.
Yes.
And he grew up with you, right? So you two were so similar. And I don't know that you know how similar you guys are.
I don't know. Do we?
Well, how do you mean that then? Maybe give a little context.
Like your mannerisms, your characteristics, how you think, your intellectual knowledge. Like you're like a copy paste of mom. And Tony, how he looked, things like that. I wouldn't say maybe mannerisms, but I wouldn't say character. Tony was dad. And I'm the product of both, right?
Yeah.
Mom's introverted. You're introverted.
Yeah.
I'm very extroverted.
Yeah.
I'll talk to a wall.
You will.
I don't care.
That's true.
It might talk back.
Right.
Right. So I'm the product of what you two went through, losing Tony, how dad was. And I kind of sat back and just saw everything that I didn't want to do. I didn't, I don't want to yell all the time. Okay, check. I'm not going to do that because dad yelled all the time. I don't want to sit at home all the time. Mom was a homebody. I do now, but growing up,
That's true.
So I took the best from everybody. You, mom, Tony, dad. Unfortunately, I got my personality from him. But I took the best from everybody. So I know you guys both think that I was maybe hurt and things affected me. And I'm sure that they did, but I haven't held on to those things.
Yeah.
Because of you guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean I never cried. I don't mean I never was hurt. But it didn't and still does not affect me as much as it affects you two. So that's what I mean. Like, you guys, I think, are carrying this heavy burden on your shoulders. Mom, for her whole life. And you, I think, since I came into this world. And I'm 35. So you acted more as a father figure than a brother.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't there as my brother. Not that I couldn't tell you funny shit and be mom did this. Don't tell her.
I know.
But you guys, I think you need to know, and maybe this isn't the appropriate time to tell you that, but that you did a good job with the final child. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm woo, but
No, I like the way you're looking at it and your perception.
right. So, like, you guys are seeing my mom and my brother cry, right? And I'm sitting here, I'm just listening, and I'm not as emotional with this topic because, again, I was a baby, and I think for the most part, everybody that watched us, helped us, whatever, I was the baby.
Yes.
I was always taken care of. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get yelled at. Or if I did, it's completely out of my memory. So you being 8 and 9 and 10 and growing up got a lot more of the verbal abuse, the physical abuse. Now, I do remember, like, my perspective, I never blamed mom for leaving because I didn't know any different. I didn't know she left, right? I wasn't conscious of that. I just thought you live in 2 households, right? So we get to go see mom and we get all the good cereal and, and rent movies and stuff, right? I'm like, all right, this is how you live. And then we have to go back and we have to be with dad and we go to school. And then the next weekend we get to go, so that was my loop. So once the physical abuse started with me, because there was a very short window where I would get hit, smacked around. All of us did, but where I remember, but then you got big and then Tony got bigger and the abuse stopped. Because in your mind, you were protecting me and Tony because Tony was still, only a year-ish older than me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when Tony started to get big, like, I was never as abused as you were. Or you were. Because I know you were abused too, Mom.
Emotionally, you were.
Emotionally, I was, but I don't really hold on to that because I don't think I had as much exposure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, yes, does it suck? Of course. Do I want 2 parents? Did I want 4 grandparents? Yeah. I mean, you all know how I feel about Papa, my dad's dad, because he was the only grandparent who loved me. The other ones, you look just like your mom, you act just like your mom. I was kind of lost in the middle of all the cousins and everything like that, but I was always the baby to Papa.
Yeah. I do.
So I latched on to him and he was the only one. And he was, I mean, you saw how torn up I was. And So I don't want you to think that everything that you did affected me and still affects me, because it doesn't. I know you think, why can you just be this person and, not give a fuck?
I tell you all the time, it amazes me that both of you, all of you, Tony had this same characteristic, where when you decide, I'm done with this, I'm not letting these people harm me, hurt me, whatever anymore, you can turn around and walk away. And to me, it appears as if the emotions were left back in the relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and some of it is, and some of it,
yeah.
and some of it does still hurt. You don't. I could cry at night and just about something because I don't have a relationship with my dad, but I don't really do that. I was never truly upset or cried or did all the things that I think you thought I did. Because I know a couple times you would ask me.
Yes.
I'd be like, fuck it. You don't want a relationship with me? Fine. You're definitely not going to come anywhere near my children, right? That's me being you, but in my version of life. I don't care. And I know you don't believe me when I say that.
I believe you now. I've reached the point with my family of origin where I don't care. I know what you're saying here. I finally reached that point.
Right. But it took
I mean?
you a while. And
I think it's taken all my life.
I think it's taken John a while. John's a very strong fuck you person, but deep down he's a teddy bear.
Yes.
And he does have emotions and he does get things do affect him, but they come out in different avenues, I think.
Yes.
Well, I've learned about myself. I'm extremely sensitive, and for the longest time, I thought that was a weakness, something that I was supposed to hide, not show, not be vulnerable. I didn't know how. I didn't know.
Right.
And that's so those first
Can
zero.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you said you didn't know how, do you think that might be the real reason people don't know how to be open and vulnerable like that? Because we never learned?
Well, yeah, yes. And
like it's a human characteristic that we just keep passing along because we don't know how. Nobody does anything about it.
Well, it's not that nobody knows how. I believe that more people are starting to learn how, and people are starting to go back and fill in the gaps, because like what we're learning through science and like, evidence is showing us, like between 0 and 7, those years, your most formidable years. Yes. You take so much in and you're like a sponge, and you are making decisions on like a subconscious level, but you're not like intellectually and brain developed wise able to kind of coherently know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So like you're making these decisions based on like the fear centers in your brain. So like, oh, I said that, I got smacked, better not do that again. Okay, learned, brain, boop, switches over. So it doesn't put you in those same situations. And this is what I've started to learn, is then those things store themselves. It's like a little microchip that stores itself in your body. Mm-hmm. It's like a little trauma chip that like, if your brain feels it's going to be threatened and go into a situation like that again, your body goes, nope. Gives you like you ever have like one of those feelings or one of those kind of things where you're like, you can't understand it, but your body's like, no, don't do that, and it feels weird and it starts to shut down. Okay, you both, yep, there we go. So looks like we're all related here. Okay, fucking A. Well, this is what I'm starting to understand and peel back here. And so like through my experiences, I have a lot of these trauma chips that, and you both know it, something would happen and I'd blow up and I wouldn't know why. And I would feel it in my body and I would get angry, but I couldn't like logically and coherently say, this is what I was feeling, this is why I was feeling it, instead of just blowing up. And it's like a protection mechanism, because our brains really are designed to keep us safe, not keep us happy. Not keep us happy.
Keep us alive.
Right. So
I consider that what you just described as emotional napalm. To me, what happens is, like you said, it gets stored in some format in your body. For me, it's like the spark of a fire. Napalm hits once, and it can burn and burn and burn. Whatever it touches, it burns and burns, and it can reignite. So for me, when something hits me, it feels like that fire just blasts up again. It's like a furnace inside of me.
Yeah.
When that, whatever it is, goes right to my central nervous system.
It jangles the nerves and it circumvents logic.
Right. So we're having the same feeling, but I never knew that about you.
That I would blow up.
That you had these feelings.
Well, how could you not? You're my mom. You were supposed to know. Like, how did you?
I don't read minds, honey. I love you, but I don't read minds.
But didn't you know when I was blowing up and acting like a jerk off and an asshole that like
Yes.
fucking like something was not
Yes, I did.
correct?
Yes.
Well,
When anybody behaves,
I should just like be like everybody else and blame my parents. Then it was your fault.
when anybody behaves differently than they normally do, there's a reason. And when you go, you flare up, it's a fire to me. There's something driving it. I don't necessarily know what that something is, but yeah, I know something is happening, and I can't do anything because you have to identify it.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
If you want me to know something, you tell me, and if you don't,
Well, now as an adult, hopefully, or becoming an adult anyway,
you're an adult.
I'm starting to learn that I am responsible for those emotions. If I have the anger and the flare up and the whatever, and then if I'm a hurt person who then continues to hurt somebody, that's a me thing. That's not a them thing. It's not because they did something. It's because I chose to do something.
In response. Yes.
And I reacted instead of responding. And I think that's been a cool sort of distinction, is understanding like, instead of reacting to these feelings that I no longer have or no longer understand where they're coming from, now it's my work to sort of like change that programming a little bit and start to understand like, okay, I had this feeling and I did react, but now like my response is, okay, let me like work to correct it sooner or get back to saying, I'm sorry I did that. I had this response. I didn't understand what that came from, and now I understand it. And hopefully the next time it will be less intense and I'll keep getting better at this. And it's like repetitions in reverse. So I learned anger. I learned introversion. I learned shutting down. I learned all of these things in my brain, we'll call it trauma brain or whatever the fuck, scrambled brain. But it was keeping me safe. So it taught me all these sort of maladaptive strategies to kind of get around.
That's exactly what it is.
Fear.
To keep you alive. And it is maladaptive behaviors. And we're all riddled with them, by the way.
Well, I'm learning that too.
Yeah.
And now like starting to know that about me, instead of like reacting and being all mad at people, it's like I can really start to be like, man, like they're not even aware of it yet. Like I have empathy for that. Like, all right, let me have the patience to step back. And that's
right.
Been a big word for me. Like you both know I'm much more reactive and fiery, and yeah, I am like, fuck you. And the truth is I do mean that. And I've gotten to the point now, what's why I can talk about this stuff is like, I'm sensitive and I can cry and I can talk about it, but then also be like, you're not going to hurt me anymore because now I own those feelings. So yeah, like fuck you. So now I know if you're coming at me to try and like hurt me, like then it's like game on, motherfucker. Like I'm gonna like cut your head off. Like, and that's where I've learned to channel anger at people. And I don't have a ton of that, but there are people I've learned the people in my life that would do that to me are the ones that aren't looking at their own shit. They're just trying to like make me hurt.
They're projecting.
Right, projecting. And they're those narcissistic personalities that we've started to kind of...
We're going to talk about them, aren't we?
Yeah, and some other times. But the more the people that like get off on like seeing you hurt,
yes,
or like kind of like sucking up every ounce of goodwill that they can from you and attention that you'll give them, but there's no real reciprocity. It's just really like a take, and it's not something that fills up my cup and allows me to feel like this relationship is like worthwhile. It's not. I believe relationships should be, yeah, sure, reciprocal, but also like I want to be here because you want to be here, and we're like making each other better, and we love this, and we learn and grow, and we love each other, and we want to. And you'll call me out of my bullshit if I have some, and we'll do the same to you. But like that's because we love each other, and we're not going to try to hurt each other. We want to, and if we do, we'll call each other out on it. Be like, this doesn't feel good. This isn't right, and you'll actually hear that, because we have boundaries with us and boundaries with our friends, and they'll respect that. And those are the kind of people that they'll be in your life because they like that about you.
Exactly. Oh, excuse me. Exactly.
So it is pretty cool to see you kind of grow the way you have? Because I mean, I'm your sister, right?
I mean, I think so.
You tell me all the things. We talk a lot. You know, I know you, and I know when you're pissed. I know when you're happy. I know when somebody said something to you and your bomb's ticking, right? So, I mean, I know how to, you've called me times before and just needed to vent, right? And you just got it all out. You're just yelling and you feel better. And I'm that person that'll just, all right, he's venting. Here we go. And just let it out.
Brace.
Right, brace. But to kind of see you go from that person that was just reacting and getting to that point of screaming to now, I just wanted to say that's very cool to kind of watch you. I don't want to say grow up because you're older than me, but grow just period.
Grow emotionally.
Yeah. Because you don't really get to see that. You kind of expect your siblings, they're pretty similar throughout your life. Like, yep, I know this is going to piss him off or this is going to make him really happy. But you don't expect them to kind of change and grow emotionally and things like that. And I just wanted you to know that was cool.
See, that's interesting that you said that you don't feel like people expect their siblings to change. And I'm learning, it's not that I expect you to change, but like, I want to see you grow emotionally. And like, you're not done growing as a person. It's not like, oh, well, you're here, you spit out a couple kids, now you're just waiting for death. Like, there's other things that can still evolve, you know?
It's, you know how like you just grow up.
I do.
You know,
I know what you're saying,
yeah.
but like, yeah. And I thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And that tells me that us sitting here and having these conversations and really kind of like bearing it all, but we're like, because we're saying it and actually like in a place where like we want to be, you're seeing it firsthand and you're seeing the result of maybe the work that I've done over the years, but it's threefold to you guys. 'Cause like, when I hear you talk and take in what we're saying, then I can see what you guys have been doing for the last 16 years as we've kind of like, we broke apart, and not that we were totally isolated, but like.
No, but emotionally, everybody
Emotionally,
had to take
and we all
own.
sort of started building our own lives, and now we're like reconnecting in a way that like is we want it to be beneficial to our family. We want a foundation for the boys, Macklin and Marshall, and we want mom to have like some semblance of like feeling like she has a family life too. I want to have that in some aspect, you know, and I'm learning like, yeah, we have the family you're born into, and then you have like a family you can choose and build.
Yeah.
I think that's another important part of what I want to convey today is you can really, not everybody has to stay in your immediate like circle, and that's something that I've learned. And there's people in our lives that we'll kind of unpack and talk about more. And it's not that I don't think any of them are bad people or evil people necessarily. I think they're probably gone through some similar fucked up shit that like we have, and they haven't had the ability or wherewithal or want to unpack that shit. We're doing it, so like, and that's okay, and we're figuring that out. But we're going to move on through that. And for us, it's important for the family that we're building, moving into the future. And I think that's a big part of it is when we look at like who else now, like we just talked about, for me, 0 to 7, most impressionable years, and how long it has taken me to start to unwind that. We didn't want the boys to go through that, and they're 7 and 4 now. So Macklin's right on that edge, and Marshall's like a couple years from like really being conscious like Macklin and seeing all that too. And then like, guess what? 7 to 22, 25, they're testing all the shit they learned. They ain't listening no more. So
Macklin's already trying that. So
there you go.
I'm there. But yeah, no, I didn't want that for them. Obviously. So yeah, I mean, I picked one that was probably pretty quick in a lot of other people's eyes, but it's just a feeling that I knew he was going to stick around and we were going to build this foundation and life together. And he's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. We have a good relationship, but my boys see that.
Right.
They see what I didn't as a kid.
Yeah.
I
so
agree.
their
I agree.
normal is mommy and daddy and my mom
Working together.
My mom has to show up every couple days, or they're like, "What?" That
hell
spins
breaks
them.
loose. Where's
Yeah,
my
that
mom?
spins
Like,
them.
yeah.
But mommy and daddy are here
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
and so that's what they see, and that's what I want them to continue to see
Yeah.
and
that
know
includes
is
you
their
and
normal.
Jackie as well.
What do you mean?
The boys, when they talk about their family.
Oh,
I know,
yeah.
I know. And
Uncle John and
Uncle
Aunt
John
Jackie.
and Aunt Jackie.
like all of our sort of little independent islands, but then all together connected somehow, having some stability there, so that
It's
we're
our fortress.
Their
Right,
brains
like-
go into overdrive when it's you and Jackie and mom.
Oh,
They're
yeah, they lose their
they're like,
minds.
I need all the attention, all of it, and they're bouncing off the walls. I mean,
Yeah.
they literally climb on you.
I know.
So it's
I love
important
that.
for it's a small family, I think, than what a lot of people are used to with like 80 million cousins and this aunt and that aunt. But for them, it's what they know and it's what they love, and it's what they need. So, obviously we'll continue to do that, but that's what I want for them.
Well, I think there's all kinds of familial units, big, small, little,
Yeah.
and wherever sort of your environment was growing up, like that does dictate a lot about how you start to go out into the world and make decisions and how you process what happens to you or what doesn't happen to you and how you perceive things. And so after a while, when you start to really understand, like, holy crap, like a lot of that started when I was a little kid. What do I actually want to do? Like, I think we were talking about it in another episode, how we're like, even me still sometimes, I'm just starting to come into it, and I have a sense of purpose, and I really feel I can double down on that now. But I didn't know who I was. Like, I'm sitting here in our gym, and
No, you're Jim.
well, it's ours. It has our name on it. And I wouldn't have gotten here if you guys didn't support me in the beginning. Like just, John, you can do this, you can go. So, like, it's ours. It's our space. I wouldn't have been, like, I still realizing, like, I built this place to make Tony proud. And I'm not upset or, like, mad about that. And to have that realization feels really, like, relieving now. And I know that I still needed to do it anyway. So it's not like, I regret all this time I spent. No, I learned so much.
You are right now if you hadn't gone through all of this, getting your gym set up.
Being who I am.
Right.
The clients that I get to interact with, the people and the stories that I've heard and what I've learned. And really, that has been huge, has been like, the more that I've started to open up to them about why I started the gym and like losing Tony and that the kettlebells that I started to use were his. And man, they were like, what? Like, and then they'd tell me their story. And so we got like closer that way. And then I noticed their results get better. So like, it was like, okay, well then there's something to this. And the further I dug, it was like, yeah, because John, like, you're good at relating to people. You're good at believing in people. You are a strong person. You are a sensitive person. You show both sides of those things. You've made a space where people can open up and like cry with you and then also rage the fuck out if they need to because like they feel comfortable going to those extremes because you do. And that's something I feel really actually good about. And I want, like we're supposed to feel things. We're supposed to think about things. And there's a space in between where I don't think a lot of people have connected or feel comfortable going because they don't know how. It's like, I'm smart and I know this, but I don't know how to feel and go there. Or I just feel and go all the way everywhere. But when it comes to like, planning and logic, that's not my forte. Well, there's probably not just somewhere in the middle to be balanced. But I believe more being able to use those skills. Like, if I have to go extreme, I can. And if I have to, like, be logical, I can do that too, And so then, to me, that comes back to, like, making choices once you understand what happened to you and where you came from a little bit. And not that you'll make it all better and go away, but that you can take and have a response ability with the things that you have happened to you moving forward. So your ability to respond improves, and consciously you move towards something that like fills your cup up, your heart up, and makes you feel good. And that's what like the divorce brought out for me. By being able to talk about it and seeing what you guys went through, we've had to repair ourselves and come back together, but we're not worse off for it. It could have happened differently, but...
No, I don't think we're worse off for it. I don't know why it takes so long. to get to this point in a family. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
These are things we should have been doing all along. Families
people
in general should
never even get to this point.
Right.
So
Right,
don't,
right.
there's no right time, I think, for anybody. So the fact that you're even willing, we're willing, you know what I mean? Just go with that, because there's no,
That was a big step for all of us. It
there's
really
no,
was.
yeah, there's no timeline. A lot of people don't just shove it. And then when, grandma dies or mom dies or dad dies, they're like, oh, thank God, and I've always been a mommy's girl. Always. Okay. If mom's
That's true.
upset, mom's mad, whatever, I'm trying everything to help her get to that point. So I would never I think I cried a long time ago. Someone took me to a funeral. I think it was Dee Dee. And I just kept crying all night because I didn't want mom to die. And she couldn't, she was like, nothing's wrong with your mom. She's going to be fine. I'm like, but I can't. So, and I still feel that to this day if I were to
Aw.
lose mom. You know what I mean?
You're stronger than you think, Holly.
I know. And I have things that, I would have to be strong for, namely my children, but it doesn't.
Lessen the pain. I know.
Correct.
I know exactly what you're saying. There's a whole lot more about the divorce that, again, we're going to talk about as time goes on in context, rather than just an overview kind of thing here. What do you think?
Well,
Do you have any questions for me? That was my other. I really want to know. Do you have any questions about what transpired? I don't mean to put you on the spot. Bring them out when you do. I want to know what affected you.
for me, what affected me, was continually bouncing between two spaces. And I, again, was probably more conscious about that. And then in reality, then it started becoming 4 or 5 spaces, because it was then you got to split up the ants and you got to split up everybody. And it's we're going to here with you, and then we're going to here with you, and then then we're going to over there with you and over here with you. And then and I won't lie, then you're oh yeah, I get twice the presents and twice the cookies and all the desserts and all this shit, but in reality, I knew something inside. I was this is I didn't know how to say words to it, right? And that's what I've learned. I don't know how to articulate it.
Right, you didn't.
I felt it on some level, and I think that's a big reason why I'm more I feel so much in my body and deep, is because I felt so much so early, but I didn't know how to put
Express it.
sense and logic and articulate it. And now later in life, I see I have this artistic side that's really starting to come out, where I am blending these thoughts and these emotions, and this flow is starting to happen, and that feels really beautiful. And I see in our family, Pop and Mom, both artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Pop had a scholarship to go to an art school, and some part of me sometimes I'm man, the sacrifices some of our family members made, I feel I want to also because of the divorce and because of some of these things, is I want to live out my dreams too,
Mm-hmm.
to the fullest, and that for me is if I was going to have a kid, and I still can and will if I want,
Mm-hmm.
but to be able to show them the model of me going for my dream, so that my kid has that same stability that at least Macklin and Marshall see mom and dad together, And for me and Jackie, Jackie is doing her thing, she's a veterinarian, she's really great at what she does, and I'm not saying I'm not great or doing what I'm doing, but I also know there was more in me, and there's these levels that are being unlocked the more I talk about this and the more I unpack. And that's interesting, that's scary, it feels weird. Sometimes I feel like a big fucking loser, because I see other people that are my age that monetarily and on the surface that it looks like they have more and all this. And in a lot of ways, I know they don't have more. Thank you for making it this far in our show. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. Just know that you're not alone, that we're here with you, and we're going to work through this together. If you need some help or assistance, dial 988 or head over to our website, www.IamNotOK.com. www.iamnotok.com for a space where you can breathe. And if you want to send us an email and let us know how you're doing, we can get back to you as soon as we can and make sure that you're on the right path. Now, back to the show.
No. Don't compare yourself to anybody
no
but you.
comparison, right? Yeah, like I'm just at this space in my life because this is where I'm at and where I'm
Right.
supposed to be.
I know what you're saying, but
it's I'm not saying it's not hard, and that's why I wanted to like. I'm still human that way too, and like you
I
can
feel
get
the
caught
same
up in the
way.
comparison trap, right?
Yep.
Like you
all
feel like
the
a
time.
loser,
And
like
always. And mom's like, don't compare yourself. Like I said, I've in
I
previous.
do say that to you all the time.
I've been at the same job for 16 years, and while on paper that looks great, right? But I'm a bartender, so it's not. And I'm not downplaying that service industry.
no way.
But still, there's people my age who have a gigantic house and a beach house and, you know, all these things and monetary and all that. So, and I, you know, there are times I struggle and I don't want that. So yes, we do compare. We all compare, even you, mother.
But then you have to stop and remember they're humans too.
Correct.
And the
we
human side of your life gets ugly and nasty and
we do, and I'm sure their life is not all rainbows
Exactly,
and
that's the
sunshines.
point.
Okay, I watch
That's
a
the
lot
point.
of documentaries on murders and stuff like that, and they're like, well, they looked like a normal, happy family, right?
That's true. That is
so
true.
it's crazy to see, and I know, but you have that moment where you're like, oh, fuck, like, cool. You have all these things and I don't. But then on the flip side, I look at it like I have all these things and I know there are kids out there that don't even have a change of clothes.
Oh,
so
right.
I flip back and forth with it.
Yeah.
And I do, we have a roof over our head. We have cars and food, and my children have an abundant amount of clothes, right? I always find a way to make sure they have everything that they need because that's how mom was with us. But you flip back and forth with that because you're human and you do compare.
Yeah.
And while it takes, it might take a little bit longer sometimes to flip back and, not compare, everybody still does it, Mom.
Yeah, I do. What I can say is evolution growth is I'm not comparing that way now. It's a comparison to who I was yesterday.
Right.
And did I learn something about some trigger I had, or did I have a thing that I could get better at that wasn't as great yesterday? So I'm not comparing myself to people monetarily or and now if anything, I see that so many people because I think I was so in my body when we lost Tony and we lost that happened, and I got into the space that I'm in now, that allowed me to move in a different way to where my health, I've in such great order where it's some people have $1 million in the bank. It's I have $1 million body, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then with that, I know I can go make $1 million and I won't lose my habits with my body and the things that I put into place. So I kind of feel not that I did it right or the better way, it's just the way for me. But in some parts, it's understanding if you're taking care of yourself, then you'll take care of everybody else.
Right.
Because those things will downstream. You'll go to work. You'll be more productive. You'll have energy. You'll be a present for your kids emotionally, the people in your life, the people you love, and those are things that I'm seeing, firsthand through my clients and all that. So it's interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Isn't it?
My mother always said if I did anything for myself, I was selfish.
Well, and do you still have sort of that hang up and some of that?
Yes, she does.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
There are many times that I've been out with Mom previous to me even having kids, right? When I was in college, Mom and I would have our Saturdays. I would come up before I worked. We would have Starbucks coffee. She hated it, but she would do it for me, right?
Yeah.
Because it was cool. It was cool to have a Starbucks cup. And then we'd go shopping or grocery shopping or whatever. And there were times where my mom and I like to go thrift shopping.
We love
yes,
thrift shopping.
We love it. But she would pick up a purse and put it down and pick it up and put it down. Oh, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't need it. You do need it. The shit on your arm is falling apart. I'll get it some other time. And I mean, time and time and time again. So now it's to the point where mom hates when I get her birthday gift or Christmas gift or whatever.
Yeah.
So now it's from the boys. She can't say no, but it's those things that I've seen over the years of her picking up, putting down, or things that I know she's not going to physically buy for herself because she still has that mentality that she's selfish when she's earned everything that she has coming for her in a good way, not the negative shit. But so that's how I've been able to try to peel her back of her thinking that she's selfish. Like, yeah, all right, your purse is
it's a
falling
difficult
apart.
one to get
Okay,
through. Yeah.
guess what Macklin and Marshall are getting you for Christmas? And then, but then she can't say no. If I'm giving her something, it's always like, you didn't have to do that. Like when you went on vacation, I went on vacation the same week.
Yeah.
And you brought her back some like really cool stuff from the palace.
Queen
Yeah.
Victoria and Prince Albert
Yeah.
ornaments. Love them.
And I went to Key West and I went to Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville
Yeah.
and his studio.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool, right?
Super
Mom
cool.
loves him. And I got her a magnet.
Yeah.
So we both brought her things back and it was still, oh, you didn't have to do that. Don't spend your money on me. But you did that our entire life, is you always spend your money on us. You know what I mean? So
I'm your mom.
it's coming full circle.
Well, yeah, and it's not like she can say no. It's more like, and we know like we're putting thought and effort into that. But when we see something that's like, oh, mom would like that, like we want her to have that because we know what she gave up for us at some points, and we saw her do it.
I didn't give up.
Well,
You did.
No, I didn't.
Mom.
there were like for us to have sometimes you didn't.
Trade-offs.
We know.
I give it
we
up.
know.
Right. And
No
as a mother
trade-offs.
now, I understand where she was coming from with that. Because
Yeah.
there's like, mom hates my Crocs. I love them. Okay. I
Yeah, I'm
love
not a
all-
Crocs guy, but,
I know
you
you're
know,
not.
it's
but
whatever.
I have all the
Were
flavors.
you crushed when did they go out of business and restructure?
I'm not sure. I think someone did something
Did it
and
break
brought
your heart
it back.
though when they disappeared?
No, because they were uncool at some point and I had to stop wearing them because they weren't cool. And now I don't care. But like, I don't know. I lost my train of thought with that.
You have all the Crocs.
The flavors. And
Oh, so like if I see they come out with new Crocs all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And I see, oh my God, they just came out with Barbie ones. Well,
right.
I want the Barbie ones, right? But they're pretty pricey.
Okay.
But then Macklin gets an inch taller, or Marshall needs new socks, or
And you're like, yep, gotta do it.
they want something. I'm getting them the want or the need over what I
Yeah.
think that I'm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get that from mom.
Gotcha.
There are times where I buy stuff and I'm
Yeah.
like, and I feel selfish. But I'm on the pot kettle.
Hello.
I'm on that. I go back and forth. There are times where I'm like, because I know my kids don't want or need for anything.
Right,
Okay, they
right.
have everything and more, but it's still that when I was a kid and I wanted something and I would ask mom for it, but she couldn't afford it. I could see that hurt in her. I don't want to do that to the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like but I also want to instill in them, like mom would take us to the dollar store back when it was actually $1 and be like, go crazy. And that was,
Remember those?
That's a big deal.
that was
$5, $10 get you a lot of
That
shit,
was like
man.
Christmas.
Yes. And those were my favorite times and memories and things like that of going to the dollar store with mom or going to Kohl's and like going through the clearance. Now, like my kids don't understand that yet. And I was a little bit older when mom and I would do that.
Yeah, you had no interest in that when you were younger.
Correct. And as
You
the
hated
boys
Home
get older,
Depot.
they're going to like Macklin gets, I did hate Home Depot, but now I love
I
it.
know.
Now I love it. Macklin, I think it will be obviously the first one realizing that you kind of have to work for what you want. Not necessarily what you need as a child, but what you want, you
Right.
need to work for it. So Macklin started taking out the trash and doing things like that to get the
Pocket
thing.
money.
Correct.
Like if he wants a shirt or something, he'd be like, okay, you have to take out the trash. Or
He's a Jersey kid.
Okay,
so
jerseys.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
Take
right.
out the
Okay.
trash,
I love
pick up
jerseys
the
too.
dog poop,
right.
help my make your bed.
Yeah,
Things,
yeah.
small things like that.
That you don't have to do.
But over the summer, Macklin was in camp, and I work as a bartender. So I would have to pick him up from camp one day a week, and that I was at work, and I would bring him back to work with me. And he knows that I work for cash tips.
Gotcha.
Right? And Macklin is like, wow, you make so much money, mommy. Now, $5 is a lot to him.
What does he know?
Right? So, but he came in, and instead of being the kid that's sitting there on the tablet, he's bussing mommy's tables. He's giving people takeout food. Like, he's really he doesn't want to just sit. He needs to, and he really wants to just move. And his dad works in a restaurant too. So we're constantly moving. Like, we don't just sit around. And a couple times people gave him tips. Now, this one lady came in. She's this sweet little old lady. And she came in, and Macklin handed her the bag and said, have a nice day. And she said, oh, I don't have any cash on me, but I want to give you a tip. And Macklin's like, money. All right. And she's like, I'll be back in a couple weeks. Well, the whole summer went by, back and forth. And not that I thought any less of her. She forgot. Shit happened. Whatever.
Of course.
But
he didn't.
But he did not. So last week someone called the restaurant, and my manager was like, oh yeah, Holly's here. And I'm like, who's calling? So he comes around, and he's like, some lady just called and asked if you were here. And I was like, okay, I didn't think much of it. And then I come out of the kitchen, and this lady's standing there with this gigantic present. Okay. And I mean, she's like 4 foot nothing.
Bigger than her almost, yeah.
It's bigger than her. And a little bag. So long story short, she got my son a gift, and she got him a card with his tip money in it, because she promised him that she was going to give him cash. And she never goes back on a promise. That's what she keeps telling me. My nieces and nephews never let me forget it. So this lady brought in a present for Macklin and a card. And also in the bag was some candy for the boys and another card for me. So I was already blown away by the gesture, and kind of brought me, a lot of emotion to that. Like, you didn't have to do this. I appreciate you, but
yeah, right.
You really didn't have to do that. So, and she just kept saying, I wanted to. You were doing such a good job, and you remind me of my parents. When we were younger, it was like the best thing. Would you ever go to work with mom?
A couple times, yeah, actually.
And it was like the coolest thing ever, right?
It was different,
Probably
yeah.
not for mom, but like for us, it was like
when I came in a couple
yeah,
times.
right. So Macklin thinks right now it's cool to go to work with your mom.
Yeah.
So, but this woman, long story, I bring it home. I let the boys open the gift. It's a big train set. They're blown away. And I let Macklin open his card. I did not open his card. I wanted him to open it. He read it. And this woman put in there 5 $10 bills. She gave him $50.
How amazing is that?
Unreal.
And just wrote, you were such a treat, thanks, do well in school, whatever. So there was another card in there for me, and this woman wrote me this, long letter about how I'm doing such a good job, and I have a wonderful child, and, instilling in them that they need to work for things they want and need at a young age. And she was just blown away that, my child was essentially play working. And she put a $50 bill in there for me and wanted me to buy myself something nice. Now, I haven't touched it. I left it in the card because I'm still half tempted to just spend it on the kids, Christmas, things like that. But I just left it in there because there's nothing that I really need or want at this point, but I'm going to leave it there for a rainy day.
Not Barbie Crocs?
Well, I need a little bit more than $50 for those. But
Hocus
Put it
Pocus?
towards it.
yeah, right?
Do they have those?
Yeah,
They do.
They have Hocus Pocus Crocs?
they do.
Oh, man.
I know.
Jackie a pair.
So my point of telling that
She would
story
actually
was
probably like
just...
those.
You should get them for her.
Well, maybe we will.
Don't let her see this. Though,
Yeah, we can't
till
let her see this
after
until it's
the-
out. Yeah.
my point was saying that is just, you have to kind of put into your kids that you need to work. Like we're not rich. We don't have the money to just hand our kids anything.
Not yet.
So Macklin realizing that mommy and daddy work so hard for the things that he has and the roof over his head and stuff is huge for him to kind of realize. And just there are still really good people in the world. Like that woman was just amazing.
That's what keeps you going. People like her.
Yeah, because there's a lot of fucking assholes that come in there, but there's small moments that make it worth it.
Well, it lets you know that even though being like a sort of quote unquote a product of like our broken house and all of that like full circle, you've taken whatever happened to you and look at like how your kids behave in public to where that kind of thing is coming back to you. That shows the work that you've done. And yeah, like I can see you're like, yeah, but I'm still not gonna like whatever because you're like all shucks about it. But like you are a damn good mom too.
Yes.
So for me, for you to say today, like, wow, it's really cool for me to see you, you know, kind of evolve emotionally and not be this raging guy and really like respond now and not just react. Well, it's really cool for me to hear a story about how your kid goes out into the world and like does what you taught him to do, and that's the reaction and the response to it. Mm-hmm. I mean that says a lot about you, and so to hear that is I'm not sure I have a ton of words because I'm still kind of processing it, but that's to me fucking amazing, and I fucking love you and you're a fucking great mom. So like just remember,
you should be proud of yourself, baby. I am.
It's tough. So, but it's nice when, you know, obviously your family tells you that, but you're my family, right? So you're not going to be like, you fucking suck.
Well, actually, that's not true.
We would. We like there are times when you do suck, and we've told you, and there's times when we suck, and you've told us.
Right?
So.
Facts.
Yeah,
but
that's
you know,
true.
when
That's
someone
true.
who doesn't even know you, I've never seen this woman before, and I have a lot of regulars for her to come and, you know me for 2 minutes and tell me you're doing a fucking good job. It's kind of mind blowing. I mean, mom has come into work multiple times over the 16 years. And I think every time someone will come up and be like, we just love Holly. We just love her." I've had regulars. Yeah. I've had regulars stop
more
her.
than she would admit too, probably, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't. But they've stopped mom and been like, this is.
There's a group of women that followed me out one time.
Yep.
Right?
So that should make you feel good too, mom, is that even though you think you messed up and with the divorce and everything like that, you raised pretty good kids.
I raised damn good kids.
So that's a product of.
And I don't necessarily think that's because I raised you, but there's something inherent in all three of my kids where you have the intestinal fortitude, just put your head down and get through it. But you also have, like you said, the ability to be vulnerable, to be sensitive. One of the greatest things both of you do. And Tony did it as well. I don't want to exclude Tony, but both of you are self-reflective. You get angry, you get mad, you do your thing, you cry, but then both of you go inward and say, okay, what did I do to contribute to this situation, right?
Yeah.
What could I have done better in the future? That's the result you want. Everything you've been through in the past, we can't undo. It's going forward. You're becoming a better person. You're treating people much better because of it. That's your result. That's what you want to see, is rising above what happened and still going forward and making a difference in your life and in the lives of people around you. And you both have done that. I've seen your testimonials, and like Holly said, people follow me out of the restaurant just to tell me that, and I have to say, well, I agree with you. She is fabulous. You know, both of you are extremely hardworking. You have a lot of great qualities, but we're not here to discuss all the great ones, are we?
Well, not without discussing the other ones too.
We have to
not
own,
like fluffing our own egos,
yeah,
but
no.
like.
But we have problems. We have issues that we are going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to get it all out on the table. so that we can all move forward. And I think, honestly, so far, so good.
Well, yeah, it happens in small chunks.
Yes.
You can't eat an elephant in one whole bite. You gotta have to kind of chip away at it, and that's what we've been doing. And again, Holly, to hear that, I'm gonna kind of reiterate, like, because you kicked it off to mom again, but do you realize how awesome you are?
No.
Aw.
Good.
No.
We can work on that, but at least you said it out loud.
No. I think I failed.
But I just saw you pass it off again, and I'm not going to let you do that. So this is big bro. Like, you're going to start, like, seeing it in you, too? Or we're just going to hash out all these conversations, and people are going to see us act like assholes and fucking talk this shit out. But, like, I can't make you, but I can, like, everything you say, I can, like, be like, yo, did you hear that shit you just said? Like, you just did? Because your fucking kids are really, really solid, and that means their mom and dad are, too. So
yeah, and I get that. There's those moments that as a mom you think you're doing something wrong and you kind of have to sit on it, but you have that moment where you're like
I'm not a mom. I don't know what that's like, but I like in some small way I played a part in raising you a little bit, so I like kind of feel like you're my baby,
right. And you know when I have like an attitude when I was growing up or whatever, you're like,
yeah, I did.
Well, what the fuck did I do? And so like when I dropped Macklin off this morning, the two of them were fighting in the back of the car. I get in the car and I'm like, guys, let's stop fighting with each other. Very to both of them,
Yeah.
right? I didn't say Macklin. I didn't say Marshall. I said, guys,
Dudes.
stop fighting. And Macklin got on the defense and was like, I wasn't fighting. And I was like, Macklin, I didn't say just you. I said both of you. And he turned his whole body in the car to look out the window.
He's being a drama queen.
So I get to school and he's still turned and he's like, I want to get out. Are you okay, bud? I'm fine. I was like, all right, let me wipe your nose. No. Like just very like, and I'm like, so I'm like trying to, I don't want to send my kid to school upset.
Yeah.
Because that just, is going to, and he'll be fine by the time I pick him up. But for me in that moment, I'm letting my kid get out of the car and he's upset because I said something when I wasn't wrong. Like, stop fighting with your brother. But he took it as a personal
affront.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I dropped him off and I kept him for a couple minutes because I didn't want him to just sit out there. And then he's like, I want to get out. And I'm like, okay, it's closer to time. They're going to open the doors. He gets out and I see him sit down and I see him keep looking over at the car. And I sit there and wait and watching him and he turns away and, all the things that you don't want. So in that moment, I was like, you don't feel real great when your kid's upset. And mom, when I call her and I'm crying, she doesn't feel real great. Even though there's probably nothing she can do, it's something that but she's my person, right? I call mom a lot.
I know.
About not anything of importance, but no one else will care as much
as your mom.
As my mom. So I call her. So it sucks in that moment. So no, I don't think I'm doing a terrible job. I don't. But I don't think that it's, I think I could do better and I will do better eventually. But, for the moment, it sucks when your kid gets out of the car and he's upset.
Okay.
Even though he's probably,
you're learning your emotional self. And
yeah.
That made you feel something inside of you that you have to figure out why and whatever and kind of put words to it. But what I would like you to remember is like those moments where you're like, oh, I'm not a good mom. You're spinning into that place, or I don't feel like I have it together or whatever. Remember that lady in the gifts. You have evidence other. So yeah,
There's
sure,
no
you can
emotional
spin.
tie to you.
You can spin and you can go off into another land. However, like, I'm going to pull you back into like, this lady said that's not necessarily true. So is that thought in your head true? Go there. I'm not saying you won't have your moments and spin and whatever. It happens. Yeah. You're human. But Holly, there's evidence to the contrary. So like, that's just one of those things that, over time, you got to remember that too.
I do. And I have to, because I'm emotional, right?
We are.
I'm very emotional.
You're emotional?
I know. It's weird. Sorry. You never asked. So, But Macklin is very emotional. So just like mom and you had to grow up together because you were her first, Macklin's my first.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the fuck I was doing.
Right,
no idea,
Same kinda,
right?
Yep.
So Macklin is my baby, and he's my baby. Like he's very much like his mom. Marshall, very matter of fact, fuck the world, doesn't care. He'll look you straight in the face.
Boss baby is what he is.
And that's how Phil is. Phil's very like, whatever. You don't like, I don't care. Like, so I sympathize more with Macklin and see a lot of myself in him. So for him to get upset because I was yelling at him or saying, don't fight with your brother, even though I said guys, I see myself when I would get yelled at, right? And just kind of like turn into myself and just leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. And I don't want him to get to that point. Now, I will pick him up today and he will be like, hey, mommy, how's it going? When, like nothing, nothing happened this morning, which is my ultimate goal, which is what I want.
He should.
One time he told me I embarrassed him dropping him off because I was trying to like give him a hug.
How dare you, Holly?
I sat with that all day. I was like, oh my God, you're 7. And I was upset. I said, wow, I didn't know this started so
Now
early.
we have something to talk about here. Look at that.
So he gets back in the car. I'm picking him up from camp and I'm like, hey, bud. And he's like, hey, mommy, I had a great day, blah, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm sorry that I embarrassed you this morning. And he was like, what are you talking about? No idea. I didn't say that. I would never say that, mommy. You wouldn't embarrass me. I said, damn. I sat with this all day thinking that I did something to embarrass him. And he's like, what? So he is able to move on from it a lot faster.
As he should. We're
right?
learning. It's kind of on to the next.
So then, remember his first day of school? And I was texting both of you and I was like, this was just... I couldn't.
You're right.
I couldn't stop crying. I barely made it to the car before I started crying because I didn't want to cry in front of him. And I called mom. And on the other line, as a mom, when I call her crying, she automatically goes, "What the fuck happened?" She doesn't know the difference between, and not a lot of people do. If she called me crying, I would think, what the fuck. And I can't get it out, right? Because it's my mom. I hear her voice. Everything flows. So, and she's letting me cry. I'm like, Mom, everything's fine. Just let me cry. And then I'm telling her about Macklin, and he was really upset. Like he just couldn't, his anxiety, whatever was going on that day for the first day of school. And I was restless. I couldn't focus. I wanted it to be 3 something that I could go pick him up. And then he gets in the car and he's, hey, Mom. And I'm like, at that point I could breathe again.
So interesting. See how it came full circle? You feel so deep with your kids now, like me and mom felt so deep with like us together early in that divorce in the relationship. Mm-hmm. So now you're getting a sense of what that feels like in your own world.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's coming full
right?
circle for you. Yep.
Yeah. So it's, and that's what I mean by you two were very much alike because you two only knew each other.
Yeah.
To kind of bring what I said first back towards the end of this, is you two are very much alike because that's what you had. Yeah. Mom didn't lean on her husband. Mom didn't lean on her family. She had you, and you were her little buddy.
Yep.
And she was pouring all her love and everything into this little teeny tiny person. And that's how I was with Macklin. Now, I babied him. I picked him up. He cried. I couldn't bear to listen to it, right? And I was very different when Marshall came along because I kind of realized like he's okay. I don't have to pick him up every time he cries. I don't have to, get upset when he's walking down the steps. Like if he falls and dust it off and we're going to, right? Yeah. So that's why I feel like you can tell my kids are very much the product of me and how I reacted
when they were
interesting.
When they were babies and things. Yeah. So it's funny. So bring that back to mom. you are the direct product of her and her emotional things and
Yes.
all those, right?
Sure.
You were her person.
Right.
And Tony came along, and then it was you and Tony and Mom and then me. So it trickled downhill. And Mom, I'm not saying at all that you didn't give us all our own love and affection and all that. I'm not saying that. But by the time it got to me, I'm now stronger, can stand on my own 2 feet, watch you guys, because you're leading and I'm now following. So John had a lot of the emotional trauma and abuse and things like that. And Tony got a little bit more than I did. Mm-hmm. So then by the time it got to me, it was just, fuck it.
Not as much. You were just like, yep.
It was not as much. It was, and that is wholeheartedly because of you, the 3 of you. Right? You didn't want me to see all the things that you saw. You didn't want me to feel all the things that you felt. And Tony, sure as shit, after I beat that kid up for him, had my back. So I didn't get, and this is not to make myself sound, but I am the best of everybody. Like I got all your best quality.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said that backwards.
No, I know what you mean.
All the best qualities from every single one of you.
Yep.
I'm like the end result.
Yeah, that's really
You were
interesting
able to
you
see
say
that.
that.
Yeah.
That's the old nature talk.
Well,
It's both, by the way.
When she was most conscious, we were at a point where we were portraying our best because we were more in survival. So it was like, John's strong, Tony's strong, Mom's strong, they can do with it. We weren't letting her see all this stuff behind it. So she was like, fuck it, I can do that too. Yeah, cool, all right. And now, like, full circle, she's like, not that she's not emotional, she clearly is. She's learning how to like manage that through her kids, I think, like seeing how they get emotional and then maybe hold on to it a little less, and then now maybe it'll give you permission to start to hold on a little less.
What you were doing and why you were doing it, you're just upset, but you weren't necessarily upset with me, and you thought it filtered down to me, but it didn't.
Yeah, I can breathe a little bit. Like, last week I called Phil and I was like, oh my God, like, Macklin, how are the boys? He asks me every morning, how are the boys? Well, Macklin's giving me issues, he's mad at me, whatever. And Phil's like, he's a boy. So it's me learning,
different.
right? So I had two brothers, and I was the only girl, and then I had 2 boys. So for me, that's like,
Lots of balls.
Well, nuts everywhere.
But you have experience with it. You have
Right. I am now.
you know how to navigate it better because you have.
I do. I think there was a reason I didn't have a girl.
There is, I promise
But I
you there
have
is.
2 brothers, and now I have 2 boys. So to me, it's just that's what it was supposed to be.
Gotcha.
And that's what I got. So it's I can take everything that I had with you 2 and kind of filter it to them, the best of the best, And I talk about, obviously they know you in the flesh, and then I talk about Tony to them as well. So
They talked to me about Tony,
yeah, they
Uncle Tony.
So just to bring it all back full circle, I think we're gonna wrap this one up here, but I just need you to kind of both know that, Mom, you didn't, and I'm not going to say us, I'm going to say you didn't fail me.
Thank you, baby.
I'm not as trauma emotional because you got a divorce. That didn't, and that's why I was kind of quiet at first when you guys started talking, because I want to hear you guys, because I don't remember it. I don't have all those feelings. And it was my normal. Like, it didn't affect me, I think, as much as you thought it affected me growing up. Because if anything, it was like a vacation every other weekend. It was something to look forward to for me.
It was traumatic, though, for us, wasn't it?
Yeah. And maybe to sum it up, because this, Mom, you talked to me about this, we had to go through some therapy and be apart for a while, but you told me what led. It was that June 1989 when
Yes.
you and dad got into an argument and a fight, and let's just put it this way, like, stuff happens and things happen, and I'm not gonna gloss over that, like, it didn't, dad hit me and you stepped in between him and and I remember seeing him get physical with you, push you up against the wall and hit you and swing at you. I don't remember if you blocked or you got hit. And then the next thing I remember, and this was all blocked out, was a bang, bang, bang at the door. And we had this little, there was doors that would, it's like, sheer metal, so it was like ding, 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 ding. Like it was like rattled.
You mean the screen door?
Yeah, screen doors that rattled like a motherfucker. So that sound is like tattooed in my brain, but it was like, I think, blacked out and pushed away because that day was really challenging. But like dad grabbed me by the foot, pulled me across the carpet and slapped me in the face. And mom stepped in between and was like, "You're not doing that to my kid." And I don't know, he was just so upset and kept going off on her and was so loud that the neighbors called the police. Like, that was the day mom mentally decided, that's it, I'm done, fuck this, because we were getting ready to go down to the shore, so like we just had to get ready, go on with the day. And that was like June of '89. But by October, we bring it back to that story I started at the beginning where I said mom left me at Dee Dee's. That was October of '89. That was like filling in those 3 or 4 months took me like 40 years almost to like really like make a semblance of it and understand it. And so for those of you out there watching or listening, we don't have all this figured out. We're still talking about it. There's probably going to be some crossover in all of our episodes about a lot of these things that'll continue to kind of come out and like give more context and nuance to. Tell us your stories. Were you a product of divorce? Are you going through this? Do you see this in you? Or were you the kid? Were you the parent? Like, let us know, what you got out of this, because we really like to start to unpack these things more. And if you're getting something out of it, it might help our direction, and both of us will get something out of it. Holly, do you have any last final words?
No, just, obviously you can tell that we're the product of the same parents, but we have very different views or stories and how it affected us. It's very different. So just because, you might feel like me and not remember things, or you might have remembered every single thing, just let us know and see kind of where you fall, because I'm sure one of us can relate, if not the parent, and you can relate to mom and things like that.
Mom, any final words?
Yes, just have you talked to your children about some of the things that happened in your lives that your children went through, but you never really spoke about it with them? You assumed that how they felt, what they wanted, what they didn't want. And I'm curious if anyone has actually had these conversations with their adult children or older teenage children. I'm finding it to be exceptionally important, and I had no idea how much I don't know about my children and about our lives separately and our lives together. And it's important to build that foundation. I know I keep going back to that. We have to. There's no choice. I won't let it. I won't let it.
Well, I agree, and that's why we're here, and we're here with all of you. So if you like this, please like it. If you feel compelled to leave a comment, please do that. We'd love to hear from you. Share it if you do feel so. We would love that as well. And if there's anything that you feel like we can do better, we would happy to do it. Have a great fucking day, everybody. Thank you for listening to our show. If you're interested in how we've gotten this far, I've put together a small guide that has a 3-step process at no cost. You can get that at www.iamnotok.com/truth. www.iamnotok.com/TRUTH. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you on the inside. Be well.